Ready to stop trading time for money and build a business that can scale? Then you're in good company. This is the Productize Podcast, where I chat with entrepreneurs who've transformed their businesses using the Productized Service model. I'm your host, Brian Castle. Want to learn my best strategies for productizing your business? Then get my free crash course by going to productizecourse.com. Now let's get into the show.
Hey, back with another episode of the Productize Podcast. Today you're going to hear an interesting and pretty inspiring case study that comes from my friend Greg Hickman. He iterated through two different productized services businesses before really hitting his stride with his current business, Systemly. That's at system.ly. It's a done-for-you marketing automation and funnel building service. So in this interview, it's really a wide-ranging conversation where you're going to hear Greg's very first steps and the tough but the correct decision to sunset his first business, if you will. I'm not such a fan of that term, sunsetting a business, but I don't know. I wrote it in here for some reason. Anyway, you're also going to hear how he quickly launched and then gained early traction with his next iteration, and how he actually leveraged his personal network to land his very first customers. Finally, you're also going to hear how he's growing really, really fast, by the way, beyond 20k MRR, monthly recurring revenue, in less than 6 months. So pretty impressive stuff. We're going to get right to that conversation with Greg in just a minute. Now, today's quick tip when it comes to productized services is systematize the creative tasks too. Now, when we talk about systems and you hear about systems and standard operating procedures and training your team and starting to delegate the work, what often comes to mind are those low-hanging fruit tasks, like the mechanical kind of step-by-step, click this button, copy and paste this, press send on that, post this here, very easy to delegate, easy to build into a system. That's the kind of stuff that's kind of the low-hanging fruit. But then what about the creative stuff? What if you're offering some kind of design service or a development service or some kind of like analytical service? For example, in Greg's business in Systemly, which you'll hear about in just a moment, they're doing funnel optimization and actually building out brand new marketing funnels, which requires, quite a bit of analysis and understanding of strategy, marketing strategy, along with the technical aspects. So the tip here is that these creative tasks can be systematized too. Now, that doesn't mean that the output is going to be exactly the same every time, but the process that you go through to produce that output can be standardized and streamlined, just like anything else. For example, in my business in audience ops, what we do is blog article writing for our clients, and every article that we put out is completely unique. Different topics. We're writing for different audiences. We're making different creative points. And so I've built a team of highly talented, creative, experienced writers, and they use their creativity to create those articles. But we have a very specific and highly refined production process where every article is drafted up in Google Docs. We've got templates for how to format articles. Every article gets the same kind of treatment when it comes to enhancements like content upgrades and social media enhancements and whatnot. So all of these things can be standardized and managed and brought through some kind of production line in a very standard, methodical, streamlined way. You want to get away from doing completely custom work and using different tools and different methodologies and different processes every time. And you want to focus on a standard process, even if that process requires, some creativity or some analytical work. You can get talented individuals to join your team and fill those roles. That doesn't have to be you. And that kind of relates back to working on the business, not working in the business. So that's today's tip. The creative tasks can be systematized too. And now let's get into today's conversation with Greg Hickman.
All right, I'm here with my friend Greg Hickman, here for another case study interview. Greg, how's it going?
Great, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Cool. So, you and I have been interested in productized services for quite a while. That might be how you and I actually met a year or two ago, and we've been actually in a mastermind group together these past few months, which has been awesome. So it's been really cool for me to hear kind of the behind the scenes story of your evolution, both in your current
business called Systemly, system.ly, and we're going to hear all about that, and we'll definitely dig into the nitty gritty of what you guys are doing there. But Systemly was not your first productized service offering.
Right.
You had a different one called Mobile Marketing Engine. So we're going to kind of hear how you iterated from one to the next.
Yeah.
So yeah, looking forward to digging into that because again, as you and I were talking before this, I know that a lot of students who are going through the training and just people that I talk to, this is so common, iterating and trying different versions, and I've done this myself so many different times. So I think it'll be a really good case study here. So before we really even dive into all that, why don't we just get a quick backstory on kind of who you are and where did you come from before you did all this?
Yeah. So basically, I came from marketing background, agencies out of college, and early on got involved in mobile marketing in 2005, which was it's early for mobile still, but it was like really early for mobile then. And I really fell in love with it and worked for some small agencies that represented big brands and kind of started acquiring this skill set and knowledge in the mobile space. And when I kind of came across, people like Pat Flynn and those folks that were creating audiences and podcasts and stuff like that, I didn't see anything about like mobile in that world. So I was like, oh, maybe that can be an opportunity for me. And I started a podcast and blog called Mobile Mixed. And it was really how people were mixing mobile marketing into their existing strategy. And I had no idea what I was doing with it. An audience started building. I was able to get speaking arrangements through kind of me just talking about this thing that nobody else had really been talking about.
Yeah, I remember when I first met you, before we even started, talking and meeting,
Yeah.
I had seen your stuff online a little bit, and I just remember thinking like Greg Hickman, mobile. Like,
yep.
He's just known for mobile.
Yeah. And a lot of people are like, whoa, what happened to mobile? I get emails like that to this day. It's as of recently, obviously, it's been kind of funny. We could talk about that too. It's like kind of even just how do you get rid of that?
Right.
Which I don't actually really have an answer for yet. But basically, I was building this audience around mobile, people that were interested in mobile, and I didn't really pay attention to it too much because I was like trying to create digital products and all that stuff. But most of the revenue was coming from, at the time, like 3 or 4 customers that I was doing service for, which at the time was pretty productized. I didn't really know what the word productized or anything like that, but we were managing like their text message marketing program. And when I kind of had some ups and downs with the digital products, I kind of looked at what was working, and I'm like, oh, well, what's working is the service. Like, why don't I go all in on the service and just try to scale that? And that's kind of in that decision-making process is when I kind of came across you and the concept of productized services. And well, thanks to you, obviously, because you're like the go-getter on that whole movement. So that's when I was like, okay, like how do I take what I'm doing for these 4 or 5 customers or whatever? Actually, it was probably like 3 customers, and like scale this. And I had rebranded Mobile Mixed into Mobile Marketing Engine. And went into 2015. We're recording this now at the end of 2015. So late 2014 into 2015, I'm like, I'm going all in. It's going to be Mobile Marketing Engine. It's going to be the service. I'm going to productize it. And
so just to be clear, like you were kind of offering mobile. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it like text message marketing campaigns for small businesses?
That was the main thing we were doing. It was a little bit of strategy, like coaching involved, but basically at the end of the day, we were helping retail businesses
like brick and mortar
brick and mortar build a database of mobile numbers that through text messaging that they could use to drive repeat traffic and sales. So very much like an email newsletter, but a mobile newsletter, so to speak, and help them build out that channel and use it to drive customers. It's
the beginning of 2015. You're starting to kind of run with this idea of, kind of productizing that idea of doing, mobile campaigns for small businesses. Obviously, you iterated away from this business into Systemly, which we'll get into in a bit. But what were because you were plugging away on Mobile Marketing Engine for a little while, so it wasn't like a complete failure. Like you had paying clients and everything, and you were doing okay with it. But what were kind of the challenges that you started to face as 2015 started to roll on?
Yeah, so we were at its highest point. I think it was like 7K a month, and that was with me and just a VA, like one person that was helping me. The challenges came in the length of the sales cycles. So dealing with small business owners and the fact that I was kind of selling something that to them in a lot of ways was already foreign and they'd never even heard of, there was this gap between the small business thinking that they had a problem or knowing that they had some sort of problem, knowing what mobile marketing was and what it meant, and then having to connect those two together as like mobile being the solution. So, I definitely think I got lucky early in the year and got a couple customers and, through outbound email and speaking at a couple events. But then it kind of plateaued. And, that's when like I was really trying to create systems in the outbound sales process, which I did. The problem was like the calls, the discovery calls that I was getting, people were just still so far away from even understanding what it was that it turned into like really long sales cycles. And when dealing with small business owners with price points, $500 to $1,000 a month, like it was just created like I was putting in so much time, and even when I landed somebody, like there wasn't even that much financial reward for how long like I've been trying to pitch them. Right. That was kind of like the main thing.
And I mean, you had identified a problem and a solution that could actually drive results for them, but the gap was that the business owner didn't necessarily see that problem, even though they may experience it and they would benefit from the service. From their perspective, they're not valuing it. It's not a high priority for them. So
exactly, yeah. So like that, the product market fit was kind of off because they didn't really see the need for it yet, because they're like, oh, we don't really have a problem. And quite frankly, a lot of them, because it was so new and just brick and mortar businesses being so behind as it is, like a lot of the people that I would deal with were like, this sounds interesting, but I don't even have like email yet. Like, so I'm like, oh my gosh, like even the assets that we would have needed for them to be successful, like they didn't even have those in place. Because mobile is very integrated with other business, like on other marketing channels. So like to kick off the growth of your mobile database, like you leverage your email database, like you leverage people coming into your store. So like when brick and mortar stores are already struggling to get people in the store, it's going to be hard to build your list. When they have no email list, it's going to be hard to build their mobile list. So like there were a lot of things going against me. There were more things going against me than going in my direction. And then the second level of that was for the customers that we did have. I felt like the interesting thing is like between Systemly and Mobile Marketing Engine, we have so much work now with Systemly that I'm way easier able to identify what needs to be systematized. Whereas like there just wasn't enough workflow with Mobile Marketing Engine ever, to the point where like I was super clear on what needed to become a system and what needed to be more productized and what didn't. Yeah. Because like there was enough time to do all these things, and there wasn't like 100 requests a day where I could say, oh, look, like I'm being asked the same thing 20 times a day. Like I need to systematize that. Like that wasn't happening. So like it was only so productized that it could be. So like that was a problem too. Like I felt like I was just productizing to productize, which, didn't really make sense. Yeah,
absolutely. And I guess that starts to lead into this next question, which was like, how did you get to this realization or kind of the decision process to finally say, okay, Mobile Marketing Engine, it might be time to kind of sunset this or shut it down and look for a totally different thing, which ultimately led you to Systemly. I mean, I've been through this so many times myself, where you're working on something and you have paying customers. That's the hardest thing about this. It's not like I would love if I just launched a landing page and like 0 people signed up for it, and then I can just easily say, nope, didn't work, moving on. But this wasn't that kind of case. Greg, did I lose you?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, you just were chopping there for a minute. Yeah, it wasn't the case. Revenue was good, and the biggest thing was that I'd been hanging my hat on this, like, I'm the mobile guy thing, because I'd been doing it for a decade. So like that was even more of a challenge. Like the money was less of a concern. I was like, how do I like pivot off of this thing? Those were definitely questions I was asking myself. And when I step back, I'm actually really thankful that I didn't like dwell too much on that, because like I kind of saw a much smoother transition. Like when I was in the moment, it felt smoother than when I step back and look at it. I'm like, mobile marketing service to sales funnels and automation. Like what? Like how are those even connected? And what happened was I was using Infusionsoft myself to help create some of the automation and systems and how I was delivering the service of Mobile Marketing Engine. And I was really like, I was interested in automation and all of that stuff. So I was a user of the tool that now all of our customers are using, or most of our customers are using. And I was interested. So I actually ended up going to get certified in it, because I felt that if I learned it better, that I could create more systems and more automation so that I'd have more time to do sales for Mobile Marketing Engine. And coming out of the certification, which was June of 2015, I was like, okay, like I really like this. And I came across a mobile marketing automation tool. So like the text messaging tools I was using, there's like this new tool that came on the scene that like was mobile marketing, like text message automation with like mobile landing pages. And I was like, sweet, maybe I can use this to deliver the service for customers, and like it'll be like there was some kind of flashiness to it. It integrated with Infusionsoft, so I'm like, oh sweet, like it integrates like for people that are using Infusionsoft, like it could even be like on more steroids. And I kind of saw these two tools, Mobit, which was the text messaging one, and Infusionsoft, and when you combine them, like you were able to, any business could literally deliver and create programs that were similar to what I was doing for Cabela's when I was the head of mobile for Cabela's, before I ever started doing kind of my own thing, or took the leap, so to speak. So I'm like, wow, a small business can do exactly the same level of programs at a fraction of the price if they just use these two tools together. Right. So I was kind of like, okay, I need to understand Infusionsoft. I'm understanding this tool. When I combine them, hey, small business, you could be like Cabela's. And that kind of got me in the door a few places, but still it was just like such a long sales cycle and plateaued.
But it helped you really dig into Infusionsoft and, right, and get certified and that sort of thing. And,
yeah.
And what I love about this transition is that you're still leveraging some of the byproducts from the previous business and from your experience and your unique position, your unique insight. That's one of these things that I always look to. Even when I look back on my own path, places where I kind of went off the path a little bit is like trying to reach for something that I'm just really not experienced with. It just right. doesn't make sense. Cool. So let's talk about the launch of Systemly. So now we're recording this in December 2015. We're about 6 months into it or so.
So around June. So it's actually June. No, it was July 10th. So I'm also the co-host of a podcast called Zero to Scale, where we've been tracking the journey of this business being grown, as well as my co-host Justin, who's also in our mastermind, and his business Lead Fuse. And on the episode, he kind of challenged me, and this was, I believe the episode aired on July 10th, or it was right around there, because I remember it was like right after my birthday, which was July 9th. And we basically came to this conclusion that, okay, well, how do I validate this idea? Like, we're preaching like how to validate these things, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, all right, well, if I can get two to three customers in the next 30 days, I'll give this idea some more attention. And honestly, if it weren't for Justin and like kind of everyone that was listening, like making this public, I probably would have not have done. I don't think I would have done it. So I went out and I leveraged my existing audience, who were people that were building online brands and stuff like that.
Well, let me just stop you real quick. So
yeah,
we'll get right into how you got those first 2-3 customers.
Yeah.
Just so people have a clear understanding what Systemly is.
Yep.
Can you describe what's the elevator pitch?
So it's basically a productized service where we deliver done-for-you sales funnels and marketing automation support. It kind of stemmed from the idea of being like WP Curve, which most people listening will be familiar with, but for automation. And that slowly that's how it actually started. I very much mimicked pricing, everything, and learned a lot in those early stages by actually delivering the service, which is now nothing like WP Curve.
And you were kind of focused on Infusionsoft at first, but you've also branched out into Drip and ConvertKit. Yeah,
and I mean we literally have one customer on Drip and one customer on ConvertKit, so it's still a very small population from within our customers, but I feel like it's going to just it could potentially become more. And
it's really just automation in general.
As I'm learning more of this stuff, I want to be one of the teachers that teaches it in a way that it doesn't really rely on a particular tool, because you can do a lot of the same stuff no matter what tool you're using. So while the done for you service right now focuses heavily on Infusionsoft, the evolution of the business I think will incorporate some training and stuff which will be tool agnostic. But it was okay, I'm certified in Infusionsoft, I'm connected to people that use Infusionsoft, so I'll start there.
Yeah, cool. So that 30-day challenge, right? Yep. What were your very first steps from there?
Yeah, so I was like, okay, I need to get 2 to 3 customers in 30 days. And I basically went to the people that I already knew that were using Infusionsoft. And, one happened to be someone I was in a mastermind with. Another one is another person I was connected to that I knew was using Infusionsoft and was building kind of multiple businesses. I went out to I basically leveraged my network. And through that, I ended up getting... I always forget if it's 7 customers in 6 days or 6 customers in 7 days, but it was one of those. And I was like, wow.
So that's double your goal in a fraction of the time.
And it happened in probably a week and a half. Wow. And I was like, holy crap, this is like a 30-day goal, and I've doubled it. So the pain is real.
What was
as they say.
What was the pitch? How did you reach out to them? Was it just kind of describing in an email?
Yeah, so because I knew some of these people, I said, hey, can we hop on Skype? I want to tell you about this thing I'm doing. I want to see if you're interested. And I basically pitched it as a beta program. And I said, hey, this is what I'm interested in doing. You use Infusionsoft. You said you don't want to be responsible for doing it all the time. You'd rather focus your efforts somewhere else. This is kind of came up in the conversation. And I said, I want to offer you, done for you, unlimited Infusionsoft support and services for the next 3 months. Here's what you'll pay. Here's what you're going to get. Know that I'm going to be asking for constant feedback.
Yeah.
So I basically said, hey, let's hop on a Skype call, and I'll kind of share what I'm thinking. And I basically said, look, you've in this call, we've talked about their use of Infusionsoft, things that they like, they don't like, what are the pain points. And I said, if I were to offer you an unlimited Infusionsoft support service at, this price, which at the time was depending on who I was talking to, it was $299 or $399 a month. Would that be something you're interested in? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, so how about this? I'm going to run this program. It's 3 months. You commit to the 3 months. And during that time, I'm going to be asking for your feedback. What can be better? What don't you like? Is this something that you even are going to need? And then at the end of the 3 months, if you are liking it, we have the opportunity to discuss, a potential price increase or decrease for that matter, if, we realize that that's what needs to be done. So I basically got, approval on all of those. And, I got those 6 or 7 people to commit to this 3-month agreement at one of those prices.
And at this point, did you know? Obviously, you're leveraging your own network, people
mm-hmm.
Friends, contacts, and whatnot. did you have a sense of who your target customer for the business would ultimately be? Like, and like, would these people actually fit that profile?
Yeah. So, I mean, the people that I was talking to were all people building businesses online that primarily were selling some sort of digital product or membership site, running webinars, and in some cases like coaching. But there's definitely a digital product component to it. So that was kind of like, those are the people that I was connected to, and those are the people that I knew that were using Infusionsoft. So those are the people that I went after first. And quite frankly, those are the people that interested me the most. Because those are the people, again, that I've been building. Like, I had been building relationships with these types of people for 2.5 years and have had nothing to offer them. Like, they weren't interested in mobile. I was going after small business, brick and mortar. And like, you know, the word Infusionsoft comes up and they use it and they're like, oh my God, like Confusionsoft. Like, you can tell that it's something that they're already thinking about. They've spent money on, because it's not a cheap tool, and they've invested in consultants already. So it's like all of these factors like line it up that it's like, okay, like this could be a good fit.
Yeah, like, so it is a high urgency problem for them. And I look at Infusionsoft or Drip or just email marketing in general as such a central tool, especially for someone selling information products and building an audience. Like, that's their whole business. It's all about their email list and automation. So
yeah, and you know, the other thing that aligns really well with that audience is that, you know, the entrepreneurial crowd, at least that are a lot of people that are building these personal brands around their content, their experience, like, they understand that and have the passion to not be the one doing everything. And so like, they know they need some level of help. They're not necessarily going to go, you know, build a 50-person company, but like, they are looking for help so that they can spend more time on their strengths and or just not working, you know? So not only does the fact that it's like an unlimited service, you kind of have now a partner in this, align with that, but the concept of marketing automation in general is all kind of about how can you save time and like essentially make money passively, like by leveraging these systems and, you know, follow-ups and all that stuff. So like, just that in general jives really well with those sorts of people. Like, oh, if I do this, I can be selling products without ever even being there. That sounds like something I'd like to do. So it everything, like, the stars aligned, you know, like it's kind of what it was. And that's kind of like, it was one call closes, you know, like it was literally like, here's this 3-month thing. Are you in? And they're like, yes. And like, the first 6 or 7 people I talked to, not a single person said no.
Yeah.
One of which was, so let me say 2 things real fast. One was someone that I knew that just told 3 other people, and one of those were the customers, not the person that I knew. And then Amy Porterfield, who is a friend of mine, she has 2 private Facebook communities, and she said she'd post a message, hey, like, if anybody in here is using Infusionsoft, like, my buddy is doing this beta program, it's a sweet deal, like, you should definitely check it out. And like 2 or 3 of those, the customers came from just that one post alone. Nice.
So I mean, it's good to kind of have contacts with such influential networks. So that's awesome. And okay, so in a minute we'll jump into how you continue to grow your customer base, because obviously you've grown far beyond just the first 6 or 7, and what you're looking ahead in terms of sales and marketing going forward into 2016. But let's now dive into the service itself, and even like in those first 3 months, and then after that, like, how did you evolve the service? Well, really, the question that I have, that I think a lot of people have right now, is the word unlimited, right? Like, unlimited support tasks. That's pretty scary. So how do you make this thing work, and how is it profitable and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so like I said, I pitched it as unlimited, 1 request at a time, which is what WP Curve, like, I literally like leverage their stuff. And without kind of knowing it, but not knowing it, I hyped that up in some conversations and didn't mention it in others. Mainly actually from feedback from Brian Harris, of videofruit.com. And he like really just like a couple of things he said to me was like, pick a freaking price and offer it and see if people buy. And go through the service, and you might find out that you don't even like doing the service, or you might find out that like you're going to find out, okay, this is too high or too low based on what you're doing, and you're going to learn those by having to do it. And he's like, are you going to lose some money potentially because you're spending a lot of time on one customer? Yes, but like you're not going to know what's going to work and or what is going to be needed until you just start doing it. So
yeah, that was a pretty similar approach I had with Restaurant Engine, because we were also offering like unlimited done for you updates to your website, and I always had that question of like, how do you offer unlimited? And the answer was, we have a lot of requests in the first couple of months, and then after that it's mostly like set it and forget it. So
and that's kind of what we saw too. And it was hard though, because I just kept telling myself, while it's not as much money as I want to be making, it's like this is going to help me figure out what the service really needs to be, and what I am going to either like or not like doing. And like exactly like you said, like a lot of work was happening up front. So the first change we made was that we added a setup fee, which started at $1,000, and then went to $1,500, and it's now at $2,000. And then they go into the monthly plan, which at the time was only one. And everyone else, after I brought like 2 people on at $299, and then I quickly raised it to $399 just to see if I could sell it at $399, and I had no problem selling it at $399, so it went to $499, and I kind of hovered there for a while. And now I've added more plans. So like I've only just recently added a $999 and a $1499 plan. The $1499 is mostly price anchoring. But like the last three or four customers have been on the $9.99 a month plan.
Nice.
So yeah, like it was all upfront work. So I was like, okay, like we need to be compensated upfront for this. So that's when I quickly decided, and seeing how kind of, although it's systematized, there is still a lot of customization in that upfront process. A lot of the scalability and like kind of the systems were coming later. So that's when I'm like, okay, the whole like WP curve model isn't going to work here. Like the customers are way more needy up front. They need a call or two. Like we need to dive in and assess a bunch of things. Like I don't think it's ever going to be this $99 a month or even, $199 a month service.
Right.
Especially at the done for you level.
And I think that's a good lesson for people, because I know a lot of people who look at the WP curve model and apply it to other things. And it's really just a matter of, it's a totally different market and a totally different problem being solved. I mean, WP curve does done for you WordPress tasks, support tasks for your WordPress website. And that's a totally different thing. I mean, if you own a WordPress site, you're spending probably $6 or $7 a month on hosting, and you paid $50 for a WordPress theme. Mm-hmm. And that was your investment up front. And the support service, $69 or $99 a month, that's a good value proposition. But in Fusionsoft, it's like, what is it, like $2,000 up front, a couple $100 a month just to use the tool. And so these are, it's a much different market, much different price point. Yep. So it just makes sense to kind of charge more. And it's also more involved type of support.
Yeah, and like while there is a handful and handfuls of the stuff that we're doing is like troubleshooting and all of that stuff, it is more, I guess I'm not a WordPress person, but the amount of things that you can do in Infusionsoft, like when you're troubleshooting, like I feel like there's a lot more holes and places that rabbit holes that we could be led down, making it harder to troubleshoot. But more importantly, a lot of that upfront work like involved like theory, like, okay, what's the logic behind how this thing works, how someone moves from this opt-in form to being segmented into this list based on these behaviors. Like, It's not like this plugin is broken. Like, there was like legitimate, like I was wireframing diagrams and like, you had to think through some of these things. So like at $99 a month or even $299 a month, like I don't think it would have been as successful, at least without that setup fee. Maybe with the setup fee and the rolling into something like that could be possible. But it was kind of in that point when I realized one, that I enjoyed some of the kind of the theory and that part of it, and I realized how powerful it was. But I started listening to the customers, and more things came out that led me to where I'm at now, which is like trying to work with probably around 30 to 50 customers, 30 to 40 customers, I think is going to be the real sweet spot. And just have better relationships with them and like really become a partner of theirs, like where we know their business, like they have like a dedicated account person. So like they're always asking questions to someone that is always learning more about their business versus like a help desk sort of style. And that just came from the types of feedback that they were giving us, but also like, even though they would email us at support at, Systemly, they would always reference one of our names. So like, at the time I had Lisa, I still have Lisa, and she was kind of like the first main person I brought on. Like, even though they're emailing it, like they were building relationships with one of us.
Right.
And I was like, okay, like that's, and then I asked some of them, I'm like, do you like that? And they said yes. Like,
yeah, I see the same thing
like,
with Audience Ops, where we have our hello at Audience Ops email address, and most of them are talking to Kat. So it's cool. That's actually a good.
That's kind of helped guide us, and I think just kind of having open eyes, open ears, and also be willing to ask. Like, I mean, I've gone back to our existing customers a lot. Like, when I wanted to raise pricing, I brought on like 3 of the ones that I know I have really good relationships with, and I was like, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Like, does this feel right? Like, what are your thoughts? And it was definitely putting myself in a vulnerable position, not only because you didn't want to have that conversation with a customer, but like I also know these people really, really well. Like in some of them were at my wedding, like that I'm like having this conversation with, like they're paying me and they were at my wedding, know? And so it's kind of an awkward conversation, but like I got really genuine feedback, and that feedback has been kind of what's driving a lot of this forward.
Awesome. So let's get into how you actually deliver the service and how you've started to remove yourself and bring on your teammates.
Yeah.
One of the key. So I have a couple questions here. Well, okay. So who was your very first hire after that initial 30-day challenge? I assume at that point it was kind of just you. You probably had a VA or something on board already, but the whole thing was brand new. Like, who was the very first hire within Systemly?
Niall, who's been my VA for 2.5 years, I mean, she doesn't really know anything about Infusionsoft, so she wasn't really able to help that initial stuff. So the first hire was Lisa, who I literally probably interviewed about 40 to 50 people, put a job posting up on Upwork, and interviewed a lot of people, and thankfully came across her.
And the role that you were looking for was what?
Like implementation specialist.
Okay, so she already knew Infusionsoft?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Actually, she had been using Infusionsoft for like 8 or 9 years. Like basically since Infusionsoft was in existence, she's been using it. So
nice.
she's a ninja when it comes to Infusionsoft. Like I go to her, I'm like, can you double check that I'm doing this right sometimes? And she'll she teaches me new stuff all the time.
Nice.
So so grateful that I found her. I mean, I interviewed a lot of people to get to her, and she was literally the last person that I interviewed. I was about to hire somebody else, and then she applied to the position, and I was like, I'll interview her. And I'm like, oh my God, you're the one.
Awesome.
So she came on, and I brought her on. She's technically full-time now in her eyes. I mean, 30 hours a week, because she only wants to work 30 hours a week. When she said she'll give me 40, but like I didn't start her there. Mm-hmm. And this feedback came from Justin in our mastermind. So I brought her on. I said, hey, look, here's the deal. This is where the business is at. This is how much money we're making. I can give you 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, guaranteed at this price point, which was lower than her hourly. But I'll guarantee you that I pay you this. When we hit this much in monthly recurring, you'll double it, and then the next threshold is this much a month, and this is what your hours are going to be, and here's when I think I'm going to get there. So like I kind of gave her a roadmap, and she was on board with it. She liked the transparency, she liked the diversity of stuff that I was going to be able to bring her, And I like, here are the 7 customers that I have, and like, here's their businesses. And she's like, whoa, like there's so many different things. Like, even though they're all kind of similar, they all have their own different unique traits.
Yeah. So that's actually another question that I have is like, you're implementing some pretty like creative analytical workflows within Infusionsoft. So it's not always step 1, do this, step 2, do that, step 3, do that. So how do you systematize these this kind of work?
Well, it is like that, and it's not like that. So I mean, because I'm dealing with online entrepreneurs, like a lot of them do webinars. So like, there's only so many variations of a webinar campaign you can have. Like, okay, you want to send 4 pre-webinar reminders instead of 3. Like, that's not going to change much.
Sure.
And they're providing the copy. Like, we're not writing copy. So it's like, we are truly building out the shells of a lot of these things and like the logic, and they're giving us the content, which is really helpful for us. You know, we don't have to have that level of creativity. But like, everybody needs like a webinar campaign. Everybody needs billing automation because they all have like paid memberships or subscription products. Like, everybody needs some sort of like master newsletter. People want to have like nurture campaigns, free email courses. Like, so as the productization for us in a lot of ways comes in that with Infusionsoft specifically, I can create campaigns that are about 80 to 90% complete, that are like templates, and I'm able to import them into my customers' apps. So like, when I'm like, hey, like, you're gonna in our onboarding call, oh, you're gonna need a webinar, sweet. Like, I don't go build that webinar campaign from scratch. Like, I have a library of probably 8 different versions of webinars, and we just import the one that makes sense, and then drop in the customized content, change dates, you know, those sorts of things. So
beautiful.
So like, I mean, I didn't have that library when I started of campaigns. So like, taking a note out of your book, you know, course, you know, we created an SOP. Well, an SOP for creating SOPs, but then we created an SOP for every task that we saw ourselves doing over and again. So here's how to create the webinar from scratch. Here's how to import that webinar into a new customer's app, and here are the things that you need to change once it's in their app. Mm-hmm. And so like, now we have like a library, I don't know, there's probably like 50 different SOPs and rapidly growing of like, how do you add a product in Infusionsoft? How do you set up a subscription? Like, all of the things that we're doing have SOPs. And that was when I was like, okay, Lisa, you're really good at like this high level kind of like creating those templates for things that we need to do, and then also like the higher level troubleshooting, and also even communicating with customers. Like, using an SOP, like, my assistants can figure out how to migrate a list from Aweber to Infusionsoft.
Right, the more mechanical stuff.
Yeah, how to duplicate a campaign, how to copy and paste email copy into a 21-part email series. Like,
yeah,
so
I do the same exact thing in audience ops, where like the writers are doing the strategy around research, coming up with topics, writing, editing, and then I've got the VAs doing setting it up in WordPress, queuing up the email newsletter, social, you know, posting the social posts, and that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's been like huge, you know, and that allows, because there was this little threshold of time where like, and I knew it was going to be a problem. Like, Lisa was spending a lot of her time on things that were easy tasks but took a while. That I'm like, someone else could be doing this if they just knew how. So that's like where a lot of the SOPs that we were creating have come into play. And now we're at the point where we record ourselves doing certain things. Our assistants put the SOP together using our SOP for SOPs, and so like, it's done in their own voice, so they understand it, and they're the ones implementing it. So they go through the practice of creating the SOP for us based off of the video, adding the screenshots, all that stuff, and then they leverage it, you know, ongoing. So that's been huge, and that's where it's like, you know, I think you said it, it's like, in order for a productized service business to be like truly successful, it needs to be like 90% systems and like 10% custom. Like, if there is anything that's custom, maybe 80% systems and 20% custom. And, you know, that percent custom comes from our customers. Like the webinar funnel is the webinar funnel, you know?
Right.
The custom stuff is, are you sending 3 emails, 4 emails? What does your email say? Where are the links going to?
Yeah.
The names of the tags might be slightly different, but we've adopted our own tagging system. So like they're using our tag kind of methodology. So like that part is pretty consistent.
Yeah, even the bits that can be quote unquote custom or, you know, variable, even those can be kind of systematized to a certain extent. I mean, for example, my project manager, Kat, I've had her build this document, a common questions document. So just questions that come up from clients. Here are the answers that you can answer with, and every time a question gets asked twice, just add it to this document. So so that, you know, she has this resource and a system for dealing with these like edge cases of how to answer questions, you know.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of got us to this point, you know. And I mean we're at that point. Oh, and then we brought on one more person. So I didn't actually allude to that. So I mean over the time, so with those SOPs, my VA who didn't know anything about Infusionsoft can now do a lot of the lower level, like time consuming things like list migrations, duplicating campaigns, which is helping her learn Infusionsoft. But then I brought on another person from the Philippines who actually had experience with Infusionsoft, probably like a junior level person, has been using Infusionsoft for about 2 or so years. And she's 20 hours a week right now, but probably by the end of January, she'll be full time.
Cool.
And she's actually become another page out of Justin's book. I said, Lisa, you're gonna be responsible for Gene, and Gene's the new person. And now basically Gene is almost like Lisa's employee, and like so she's teaching Gene, and like I'm working with my VA still teaching her, and Lisa has Gene, and like kind of together like we're grooming both of these people.
Awesome.
You know, getting Gene to full time I think is going to open up a lot more capacity for us, and especially Lisa. So like that's kind of the next step. But like from a forward thinking perspective, like seeing the amount of conversations we're having with customers, I'm thinking like, and for me to like truly step out of the business, more so, Lisa I think can handle probably about 15 to 18 customers, 20 tops. So like having 2 of her could potentially get us to our 30 to 40 customer goal. And, you know, we'd have like 2 primary account people, Lisa and someone else, and then maybe, you know, 2 to 4, you know, people below that level to, you know, kind of help fulfill a lot of the time consuming repeatable stuff. And then I can pop in and out for some of the strategic stuff, which is where my strength is anyway, and be able to say, hey, new client, you know, now that we've onboarded you, your primary account person is Lisa or whoever, and kind of make it a formal handoff. That's where I'm at this moment, like making that handoff.
Cool. That's perfect. Perfect transition. I've got 2 more quick questions to wrap this up. So now, as you said, we're in the present. We're kind of moving into 2016. We're just like 2 weeks away from that. What are you looking ahead to in terms of? Well, let's talk a little bit about sales and marketing, right? Like, how are you going to grow from, grow up to that 30, 40 customer mark in 2016? Like different from what you did before, which was kind of rely on your network. What's the next step?
Yeah. So to be honest, I think I can get to 30 to 40 through my network. And I mean, we're at like 14 or 16 recurring, and we've had a couple people pop in and out for like, I have offered some one-off things. I experiment with that here and there. So I truly think that like with having a strong referral system, I'll be able to get there, and like light outbound into networks that I'm already in, like not like super cold outbound, like, you know, get buying a list or whatever and cold emailing. And I think the second part's going to really be content marketing. You know, it's a strength that I have that I haven't been leveraging yet because I've just been so focused on the service. But our website just went live that even has a blog on it, because it was just a lead page with like one landing page before, from July until, you know, basically mid-December. Because I said, you know what, I don't need a website to sell this. Like, I just need to get on the phone with someone. And previously I probably would have spent months creating content before I ever even tried to sell anybody. And I just said, like, enough is enough. Like, I got to do this. So I was like, you know what? I don't even have a website. Haha, funny. Like, it was like a talking point, like, because this is what we do. And then so I do think, like, looking at the space of, like, people that are in a similar space as me, or whether it's direct competitors or indirect competitors, not many people produce content. So I definitely think, like, being an educator in this space will help create awareness. And again, it's a strength that I have. So that's, I think, between creating a proven referral system, continuing to leverage my network, having the right price, and creating content that can draw in some people. If I'm generating, even 20 leads a month, like quality leads a month, and even closing one of them or two of them, like, it's not going to take long to get to that 30 to 40 people, right?
Yeah.
Obviously you have to worry about churn, but, like, I don't need 100 customers every month, right? So that's kind of like my game plan as it is at the moment. I know I'm capable of cold email and outbound, and I can easily not easily turn it on, but, like, I can easily adapt that and turn that into something that I'll be leveraging if it is needed.
Yeah. I mean, that's the nice thing about a productized service, higher price point. You can really focus in on the most ideal customers, quality customers, and a sales process that actually works for all parties.
And I had this perception, if anyone like this listening that kind of thinks this way, I think this is important. Like, because I had one of my mentors say, like, what's your revenue goal? And I was like, well, kind of my first milestone is 20k a month. And he's like, so you need 10 customers paying you $2,000. And I was like, interesting. He's like, or 20 customers paying you $1,000. He's like, wouldn't you rather have that than having 100 customers at whatever? And I was like, you know what? Like, in the initial stages, I was like, I feel like I'd be more able to remove myself from the equation if there were 100 customers versus 20. But now that I'm in the service and seeing how, like, integrated Lisa is into some of these businesses, I just need more Lisas. Like, it doesn't have to be me that's in the business. Like, I can have other people that are just as smart as me, if not smarter, be that main point of contact, and I can focus on the bigger picture.
I had the same exact revelation going from Restaurant Engine into Audience Ops.
Right.
It's totally different.
Like, that's kind of when I shifted. Like, a lot of the value that our customers have at least talked about, and it kind of brought back to us, is how they feel like we're their partner and that we're helping give them ideas as to how their business can grow. And, like, that is always going to need some sort of, like, human touch point, human element. And we enjoy it. I enjoy that part. And that allows us to focus on less customers, charge higher because we're delivering more value. And that's kind of where I'm at, like, that 30 to 40 person. I feel like, at any given, like, not all 40 of them are going to need, like, high level strategy at any given moment. But, like, when you spread that out across, 3-4 people on our team potentially, and, their ebbs and flows of when they need help, I feel like it's completely possible and completely manageable. And obviously I'll find out. But everything that has gotten us to this point has just been by, like, doing it and saying, okay, what did we notice? How can we make this better? Oh, we can charge more. That helps. We can not do API development. Like, that helps. We don't do copywriting. That helps. Like, right. So, like, these little things that we're just, like, choosing not to do, is constantly helping refine the service. So
awesome. Well, Greg, it was awesome for you to come on. I mean, so many golden nuggets here. From the iteration from the early model into what is now Systemly. Lot of really good insights there, and how you've been growing this thing kind of methodically, starting with your network, into where you're at now. It's really awesome to continue to see you progress, and I'm looking forward to seeing how things go in 2016. So for those of you out there, definitely check out system.ly, Systemly, and Greg is also the co-host of a very good podcast called zerotoscale.com. Is that good? Like, where else can people reach out to you? Is that it?
Yeah, that's definitely good. Twitter, I'm at GJ Hickman. I'm pretty active there.
Awesome. Greg, thanks again. Talk soon.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in today. Get all the show notes for this entire season at productizepodcast.com. And to get my free Productize crash course, where I share my best strategies for launching and sustaining your Productized service business, head over to productizecourse.com. All right, time to get back to working on the